welcome to another segment of ARA in Conversation, where we delve into and examine the key issues impacting real estate investing in today's world. Joining me today is Sabrina Unger from our New York office, who's our Managing Director of Research and Strategy. I'm Stan Iezman, and I'm the Chairman and CEO of American Realty Advisors. And what I want to do is begin, Sabrina, with the key issue. What is AI? What is generative AI?
Yeah, so let's put it into layman's terms because I am a layman when it comes to AI. But effectively, AI, artificial intelligence, is a helper that learns from data and experience. And I think the simplest way I can explain it is you have a small child and you want it to be able to recognize what's a cat. And so you show it, you're not going to do this with your real child, but hundreds or thousands of pictures of a cat. Right. So it's got its little pointy ears and a long tail. And so the system, the baby, starts to learn this is a cat. I recognize these components as a cat. And then when you throw a dog picture in there, it says, I don't know what that is, but I know it's not a cat. Right. And so it's effectively learning through experience and then helping you identify, segment, analyze. And so it just takes that experience and then leverages it into pattern recognition and relationship analyses. And so that's, effectively what it is. And I think what people maybe fail to recognize is that AI has been a part of our world in some form or fashion for quite a while. If you go into Google and you search for something and it shows you targeted ads, that is being powered by AI. If you have, an Alexa and you are, saying, Alexa, turn my lights on, that is powered by AI. So it's existed for some time. I think what's really creating the buzz is sort of the leaps and bounds that are suddenly coming to the forefront with this technology. But I think, one of the things that I've heard and I think is so powerful is AI is not a data in, miracles out tool. There are definitely limitations and learning curves.
So we talk about AI in business, and we spend a lot of time, and we're talking about it in our own firm today, figuring out how we're going to be able to use it. What are the non-business uses of AI that you see that are out there before we get into the business uses? Because this is probably the more interesting conversation.
Yeah, I think this is the most fun, right? And so I think, again, thinking about whether you have, a Dot or an Echo or an Alexa in your home, how sort of satisfying is it to ask Alexa, hey, Alexa, what's the temperature outside? And she'll tell you, or what's the time, or setting a timer. There's all these little ways that it's making our lives easier, and it already exists. But I think an area that I'm personally really excited about is the potential for AI to help in industries like healthcare. So, think about a scenario where an AI can analyze hundreds or millions of anonymized, family histories, test results, x-rays, and is fed your data, with your permission with your doctor, and without having to do any other tests can identify that you're predisposed for certain types of cancer, identifying things earlier, treating things earlier. It could literally save thousands of lives. And I think everyone knows someone that's been affected by cancer. And so the ability for a machine to be able to analyze millions of data points and do that much quicker than sort of the human touch, I think that's really exciting. And I don't think we're that far away from it.
So how pervasive do you think AI is going to be in the business world and in real estate? Because we're getting emails and calls from every vendor in the country asking us to take a look at their new product. What do you think that it's going to look like?
Yeah, real estate as an industry, I mean, we're not necessarily known for being on the cutting edge of every technology, but I think with AI, our lag in adoption is excusable. And I think the reason for that is if you think back to the earlier example about the baby learning to identify the cat, it's able to do that. An AI system is able to learn from those patterns because the quantitative data, so in this case, the two pointy ears, the long tail, the little nose, whatever it is, they're all consistent. The cat can be different colors, but all of those quantitative data points are the same. Real estate is not a homogeneous asset class. So we can feed the system all this data on every office building in downtown Los Angeles, but every building is unique. It has different floor plates, sizes, vintage, when was it renovated, who were the tenants. So there's a lot more to analyze than just the singular data points. And so because we're not a homogeneous asset class, it takes much longer to prepare the right data for AI so that what you're getting out of it can be actionable.
San Francisco was a city that several years ago was in the death throes, and everybody was writing off San Francisco. And all of a sudden now AI is creating incredible demand and employment. How do you think AI is going to impact the growth of cities, jobs, businesses, and are there going to be winners and losers in this in the real estate industry?
Yeah, I think let's take the San Francisco example. AI, the companies are signing office leases there because that's where the greatest concentration of tech talent in the world is. And so if you're on the forefront of AI technology, you need that type of labor and talent. And so naturally you're going to gravitate towards San Francisco. Just like any other new technology, there are going to be several companies that just knock it out of the park and really become sort of the de facto synonymous company with AI. And then there will be a lot of companies that either get acquired by those big groups or fail, right? And that's just true of the tech cycle in San Francisco in general. So it is creating real demand. Is it going to create the next Apple or Google? It's possible, but it's going to be 1 out of 200 companies, not 200 out of 200 companies. So that's what it'll do for that local market. In terms of job creation, there are a whole host of skills that are going to be needed when it comes to implementation of AI. And since we're just scratching the surface, I think it's arguable that we will see a real demand for that type of labor, although where it evolves from beyond sort of the traditional tech centers of the world is really, I think, contingent on the businesses and the different sectors and how they adopt AI and how much growth potential they assign to that.
So let's pivot to ARA for the moment. How are you thinking about AI with us, and what are we doing, and how are we thinking about that in the processes that we use?
On the research side, we're certainly leveraging it to analyze the millions of data points that we have for markets, submarkets, individual assets. And so it's allowing us, it's removing the human element of analyses. It allows us to sort of look at a lot more data, a lot more quickly. And instead of taking time to aggregate data, which is sort of a low impact function, and instead taking the time to analyze the output, question what's coming out of it, I think that's making us much better researchers. I think on the asset management side, again, low hanging fruit, an AI system can scan every single lease we've ever executed and say, here are all the existing co-tenancy clauses with all of our existing tenants. Or alternatively, we signed a lease with tenant A 15 years ago, and this is how many rounds of revision on the lease we had to go through. We can start with that version of the lease and save ourselves time. That makes us more competitive in the market. So there are a lot of low-hanging fruit applications when it comes to taking processes that are manual and time-consuming, and instead allowing our professionals at ARA to spend their time on activities that really move the needle, so interpretation and application of the findings.
And recognizing, of course, that privacy of all of that data and those documents has to be built within a system that is totally contained within ARA, not in the web.
Yeah, and I think it's a critical point, right? Which is the sort of compliance and legal implications of this, because nobody wants to be in a position where they're feeding data, sort of into the cloud of a system, and somehow it gets used by others, by competitors. And so that's why, we're focused on essentially having something that's built in-house that stays within the walls of our business and isn't feeding back out. So we're getting all the power and benefits of the sort of open AI system, but it's a one-way flow of information.
And recognizing that as we're talking about AI, that we're at the beginning of the beginning, not at the beginning of the end, and or the end of the beginning. And so there's a lot to really talk about. How do you think that AI is going to be impactful from an investor standpoint?
I think we should obviously think about what it means for demand for different types of real estate. And the most obvious winner is data centers. AI is creating a lot of data. It's processing a lot of data. The latency or the speed at which it can give you back information is really critical. And so data center demand, a physical location to be able to process that, is going to be really important. So data centers benefit. I also think any real estate sector that has a people or customer service element, so multifamily, residential rentals, hotels, maybe healthcare, anything that can customize your experience when you come in, make your process smoother, that's going to benefit operating margins. So I think that's a huge opportunity in a hyper adoption scenario. So maybe we're jumping 15 years in the future or however long it takes to get there. In a hyper adoption scenario, you could see the destruction of certain types of office using demand if some of those certain functions get sort of completely outsourced to AI. But of course, the silver lining there is it should create different types of office using jobs that are just maybe higher skilled because they're having to interface with the AI system.
So this has been a great conversation about AI, and we really appreciate your sharing with us all these conversations about how you think it's going to be utilized and how we're going to be using it within our business. We're at the early stages of this. We're at the nascent stage of really what this is going to evolve and look like. And so we're excited to be able to talk about this again. So Sabrina, thank you again for the time and energy that you took to be able to talk about it today.